Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for the weekly metagame breakdown for the standard best of one format. General thing, just I haven't been putting out as many videos lately. My work is making us go into the office a little bit more now, so it's a little bit hard to keep up. And to be frank, this Spider-Man set just hasn't really done it for me. Kind of been detached from Magic a little. I've been enjoying Legacy, so I've been trying to go out more to play Paper Legacy. I've been having fun doing that, so as kind of ebbs and flows with Magic, I feel like a lot of people kind of take a little bit of a break here and there as they kind of go, but hopefully with the kind of metagame challenges later in the month, as well as the Historic being the qualifier for next month, we kind of revisit there and it gets me pumped up again for some Magic. But we're going to look at Standard here and Diamond Mythic rank for today. We're going to get the data from Untapped GG. This is the best of one meta, what we're seeing on Arena, is based on what's tracked from Untapped. If you want to see the stats from Untapped or track your own win rates, link is in the video description, and then I'll paste all these deck lists as well so you can copy paste. We are like 679 subs away from 20,000, so if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe. We cover all formats, stuff like that. For the Brawl Metagame Challenge, I'll do a video ahead of that that's coming up in a couple weeks as well, so we get you covered there. Metagame, what we're looking at best of one. Boros Burn, 14% of the meta. We have Mono Black Demons at about 11. Mono White Lifegain at about 8.5. Sultai Reanimator, which is like Spear Spiderman, Cavero kind of combo-esque decks, 5.2. You can kind of group that with the Grixis Reanimator shells, but the Sultai ones seem to be more prominent in terms of win rate. We have Mono Red at 5, Jeskai Artifacts at 4, and Esper Mill. Overall, Spider-Man hasn't had a huge impact. The cards seem pretty weak compared, and a lot of them are kind of either limited by the fact that they're legendary, so you can't put multiples in a deck, or they're very synergistic in the sense of almost like a spider tribal. So we're seeing individual cards that maybe pop up, but not all in all like huge amounts. Sorry about that. So we're looking at 92,000 games played, Diamond Mythic rank, September 28th through October 5th. So this covers the end of the month as well as the beginning of this current month. Highest win rate in that span is Mono Black Demons at 63%. And I apologize with my voice. I got really bad allergies right now, so I'm a little nasally. So this is your Demon Shell. We have the Bloodletter, Unstoppable Slasher kind of combo, and then Oops All removal all over the place. So you have Shoot the Sheriff, a whole bunch of discard, Intimidation Tactics, Ruthless Negotiation, just really stripping your opponent's hand. Strategic Betrayal is more removal. Arch Enemy's Charm, so really strip your opponent's hand. The End is more removal, and then Tiny Bones here can pressure your opponent, steal stuff from their graveyard. Deep Cavern Bat eats the hand. One of the Soul Stone in here, the Terminus of Return. So this one here, early ramp that helps you get ahead, and then it can be a win condition on its own where you reanimate stuff in longer games. Elegy Acolyte can draw you cards and also just plays nicely with the fact you're so much removal. That can bring back or make you tokens in that sense. And then you have the Unholy Annex for a steady stream of cards paired with Soulstone Sanctuary as well. These jumped up quite a bit. I didn't realize I had like the alternate art foil and I buy listed it. I sold out of like some standard stuff, just pick up more legacy pieces. I sold it in my mono red deck, and like these were like buy list here for like 15-20 bucks for the full art foils. Happy with that. Boros Burn, 63%, so just a shade under. So this is basically a mono red aggro deck, but splashing white for Boros Charm, Lightning Helix, and Shelter by Ghost. Lightning Helix, obviously just a better Lightning Strike, same kind of effect, but you gain 3 life on the backside. Shelter by Ghost helps in these aggressive mirrors to kind of get you ahead on Lifegain. You have Burst Lightning, this version here not on Bolt Wave, instead opting to have more interactive. Some of them may be playing Bolt Wave. The difference is, Bolt Wave does more to the face, but in these creature mirrors, sometimes you need to control your opponent's board, so the shock has some utility there. You can play it either way, depending on how aggressive you want to be. Hired Claw, Grease Wrench Goblin as ways to put pressure early on your opponent. Slick Shot just pushes through a bunch of damage along with Emberheart. Emberheart's just basically a prowess threat here, and then your Screaming Nemesis. The trick for those unfamiliar, you can also shoot your Screaming Nemesis to redirect the damage to your opponent. So if you have a shock, you can point at your Nemesis, ping your Nemesis, and then ping your opponent. Deals the same damage to them, but gives you the upside of not making them have the ability to gain life throughout the game, which is kind of cool. So Jeskai Artifacts, this deck is largely unchanged, 63%. So the core of the deck is around Simulacrum Synthesizer. So this cares about artifacts 3 CMC or more coming into play. And then you get constructs, artifacts tokens with power toughness equal to the number of artifacts you control. Probably one of the best cards, like the engine card of the deck, is Repurposing Bay. Lets you transform random artifacts that give you ETB value, so like Clayfire Bricks and Find You a land. Well, then you can pot it away and find more simulacrums. You can find Pinnacle Star Cage as a sweeper-esque effect. Pearly Snares targeted removal. And then you have like Spring-Loaded Saw Blades in here, so kind of cool. I had an opponent in Legacy play this against me out of a card board. It's kind of cool. United Battlefront can then find all these pieces here, so you get some additional value. The one of Enigma Jewel is kind of cool with the Repurposing Bay because it basically pays the mana for the bay, so you don't have to keep up mana. The reason it's Jeskai is because you have a Fire Crystal in here. You're generally never casting this. The Fire Crystal is something you can pod into to give all your artifact creatures haste. So the Superior Spiderman, Kavero, Sultai Reanimator decks at 62. So it's relatively flat, like we're seeing a bunch of decks around the same win rate. So Kavero, how it works, or Superior Spiderman, 4 mana, 4/4, enters as a copy of target creature in a graveyard, except it's 4/4 and it's it keeps basically its Kavero's name. You exile the card you do. So you can also target your opponents, but the kind of effect is you want to draw, discard, mill your deck, and you want to bring back Bringer of the Last Gift. So this is kind of a living end style situation. So Bringer is a very expensive threat. It has a failsafe as a reanimation target typically because it needs to be cast for its effect to go off, where you basically sack all the board and then bring back all the other creatures. But when Kavero, it enters as a copy of it, so it counts the cast trigger. So you'd sack the existing board, and then you bring back all the creatures from your graveyard. By doing so, you'd bring back like a whole bunch of like Dorks, Town Greeters, Steam Core Scholars, whatever, Emmet, any of these creatures. And then Harvester of Miseries would stack the -2/2. You'd kill your board and your opponents, and then you'd have Vein Ripper triggers going off, and you'd like Blood Artist affect your opponent. Quake Feast, Town Greeter, Whale of Forgotten, Awaken the Honored Dead, Emmet can draw, discard, Steam Core Scholar draws, discard, Overlord mills you. So lots of ways to put cards into your graveyard. Jund Fling, 62%. So Gruul Fling with our famous Callous Sellsword. Once this rotates, it's going to be hard to just mislabel colored decks just because of this one card. So this is similar to like what we've had in the past of make big creature, throw big creature at opponent, laugh hysterically. The trick is to always have the Fling, but this deck here you'll have things like Hemiosymbic Might, so you can pump this and then it indirectly pumps another creature. Paw Patch Recruit here, so we don't have our Heartfire Heroes, those effects that basically when they die deal damage, so you can't get doubled up, but Paw Patch, Hemiosomatic, Aloe Alchemist lets you target, and then is another effect. The Trample is relevant. Frenzied Baloth in here. Just another creature with Trample. Picnic Ruiner can double strike. Slick Shot Show Off pumps a bunch of mana damage. Full Bore here. Just a way to give +3/2. Turn Inside Out gives you a body if it dies, but +3 power. Wild Ride is haste and +3 power. So lots of ways to pump. Just here's a bunch of damage. Throw it at your opponent. Kill them that way there. Moving on, we have Mono White Lifegain at 60%. I apologize, give me 1 sec. These stupid allergies are killing me today. So this one here is only on 3 ley lines. Core of the decks, gain a bunch of life, make big Ajani Primates, kill your opponent that way there. Excuse me. I really like Halia in these types of decks. I don't think you need 4 Linden. Halia can come down on various points. It draws you cards. It's multiple spells at times. I think this card's much better than Linden. Linden plays better, obviously, when you have a dedicated board and you're pushing through some damage. But at the very least, I'd probably do some sort of split here. Exemplar is another nice way to draw some cards, give you a nice evasive body. And then you have just a bunch of cheap creatures with either evasion or ways to gain life to make your big primates. The one thing I would say is with Essence Chandler, play a couple starting towns. It's just a way to pay a life to hurt yourself to be able to give evasion, which is very strong that way there. I do have a version that I did a video on where I didn't play Linden. I played some Halias. I didn't play Leyline. Instead, I played Enduring Innocence, just as another way to draw cards. So just a slightly grindier version, because this version is very susceptible to board wipes. The Leyline's fine if you have it out, but if you're ever tapping mana for this, it's basically a time walk in the deck. Orzhov Sephiroth. So people were commenting Sephiroth was dead, but looks like it's making somewhat of a comeback. So Sephiroth is basically the ultimate Blood Artist style effect. So it comes in or attacks, you sack another creature, draw a card, and then basically gain and drain when a creature dies. And then if it's a fourth time, you transform it, and your opponent permanently gets a emblem, and then you can draw you a bunch of cards that way there. But this deck here is all about either sacrificing for value or filling your graveyard to eventually raise past, bring back a whole bunch of creatures, and then sack them to gain and drain a bunch of life. So you have like another Blood Artist effect in the Vengeful Blood Witch. Snarling Gorehound lets you strategically mill over stuff, help you dig to the raise past. Bartholomew and then Umbral Collar Zealot are both sack outlets. Voice of Victory can make multiple bodies for that. Then Servanin's a cool one here because it can gain you some life to help you stay alive. Creatures dying naturally make it bigger, but with a sack outlet, you can basically have it so if it's power 4 or greater, you could destroy a target online permanent. So with a sack outlet, it's basically a removal spell on demand. So kind of cool way to kind of do that there. The Orzhov mana is really good in this set right now, just with multiple duels. Esper Mill, 57%. So this deck here as kind of a pseudo 2-card combo. You have Singularity Rupture. So this card here is a sweeper, then your opponent mills half their library. You then cast River Churn Monument, you exhaust it, and they mill the other half. Sometimes you'll have the blue land that also mills half their library. This one's not playing that. I don't think Spacetime Anomaly is necessarily needed. I would probably just play another Singularity Rupture. Your life total here, because this doesn't allow you to necessarily 2-card, and you're a control deck, so you're supposed to be using your life as a resource. You're not necessarily gaining huge amounts of life. Like there'd be maybe times where you get out a couple early authorities, maybe you're gaining life, but if you're gaining life off these authorities, your opponent's playing enough creatures typically to also pressure your life total. You have Split Up, Bezos can gain you some life, an Ultima, but basically survive the early game and then sweep, mill them to death. Stock up, consult the star charts, refill your hand. Bant, okay, so there they got this one mislabeled. We got me excited. Bant Chocobo. I actually played against a Nadu with Traveling Chocobo and stuff. Nadu's just so busted it makes like even random creatures good. So this deck here is a Kona combo deck. So this one is in Bant. How it works is basically leveraging Kona with the various planet lines. So you have Adasia, you might have, this one's actually only playing Adasia, but you also have Serima, which can then allow you to tap your Kona. What you want to do is with Kona, put into play Omniscience. Omniscience comes in, lets you start playing cards from the top of your library. You have a couple kind of loop combos. So Vanille can mill you and then you return a permanent. So with Meringues, you can kind of help try to find your extra copy with 2 copies of Meringue, and then you could either loop the Extinguisher Battleship, which basically will blow up all your opponent's lines, and then you pass the turn with a big board. You just keep picking up a Meringue each time, so it resets the damage that's on them. Prime Speaker Zagana can draw you through your deck, same with Vanille, and then you also have Rescue Skiff that can also pick up stuff. You have Phoenix Down, which will bring back Kona as well from your graveyard, and then it comes to play tapped, so it gets ready for the survival ability too. So many ways to kind of get it going. Mono Blue Tempo, 55.5%. So we got Aquaman or Bellion Hydroman. Aquaman's the other superhero series. So this one is 2 mana 2/2 and then pseudo prowess with just the condition of when you cast blue spells, and then at the beginning of your end step it becomes a land and it gets untapped. So on turn 2 it's almost like a ramp spell because it gives you 1 mana up. You can then play Flood Maws, Spectral Sailor, Spyglass Siren, or actually can't Spyglass at instant speed. Excuse me. You have Spider Sense here, which is like a stifle effect as well. In Web, you can basically return a tapped creature to your hand. So you can reset some of your flash triggers, stuff like Tishana's again. So just playing at like pseudo instant speed, Flame Bloom Trick makes you bodies, and then tap stuff down. Enduring Curiosity draws you a bunch of cards. Stoic Sphinx lets you push through a lot of damage, close out the game quickly. Mono red aggro, 55.5. So this is pretty stock mono red. We're seeing the needles, just punishing the decks looking to draw a lot, VVs, stuff like that. Braid for the VV Cauldron. So this is just like a port of the best of 3 deck. And best of 1, because it is a little, not necessarily smaller, but like you're getting more aggressive decks. So having maybe even like a shock more. The Scorching Shot's good against some of the bigger stuff, but it's bad against like Nemesis, for example. But you can also shoot your own Nemesis. But just an aggressively slanted red deck. Nova Hellkite on the top end. Sunspine Links to punish greedy mana bases, stuff like that. You're still playing the Villages for the Soulstone and Emberheart, as well as Hired Claw, but fewer mice than we've had in past. Izzet Vivi, or Izzet Prowess, 55%. So VV Cauldron, put VV under Cauldron, generate huge amounts of mana, draw, discard through the deck, make big Makos, stuff like that. Pross makes big creatures as well. Quantum Riddler refills your hand, gives you a whole bunch of value. This card's seen play across multiple formats now. Modern, it's something you can blink with Ephemerate. Similar in Legacy, we're seeing it as well, starting to pop up in some blue-white Ocelot Pride decks. So this card's becoming a multi-format all-star. Winter Night Stories refills your hand. You can haste out VV and start generating huge amounts of mana, just as a like creature side with the Wild Ride as well. And then 2 community decks from the early Mythic season. This is KM Ree's profile. They went 60 and 13 with Izzet Prowess. So this is more of a traditional Prowess list. If we look at the curve, just oops all 1-drops almost. So Balmor cares about instant sorcery is being played, gives pump with your team, gives trample. Draycatcher that we saw in early iterations of like the Quarry Steel decks can make you tokens once it gets counters on it. Slick Shot obviously push through damage, evasive, you can plot. Then you also have the Storm Chaser's Talent. Secret Identity is one of the new cards being played in here. It's a really unique card in the sense of it's a protection effect as well as a kind of pump effect. So when your opponent's trying to remove stuff, well, you could shrink down your creature, but it gets hexproof, which is nice. But when you want to go offense, target creature gets base power, toughness 3/4, so any of the prowess stuff stacks on top, gets flying and vigilance. So something like Draycatcher can get evasion. Elusive Otter already has pseudo evasion, but you can kind of go from there as well. You can generate green from like Starting Town or in a pinch Multiversal Passage if you want to do Grove's Bounty, but otherwise just cheap disruption, push through a bunch of damage. Usually like these decks, they're really fun to play. And then we have Gruul Delirium. This one's from HLW-S. They went 67 and 31 to 85 Mythic. So it's pretty stock Gruul Delirium, nothing crazy about it. The one thing I'd say, I personally don't like playing this many tap lands in Gruul Delirium. I've played this deck at RCQs before. I was playing at most 1. I just think when you are a deck that's looking to go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, having a tap land can kind of mess you up in that sense. I understand it can surveil stuff into your graveyard, but you're not fetching for stuff, and I think just playing to it, I would probably just sooner play like Multiversal Passage or Starting Town in lieu of it. But this deck wants to establish Delirium for more card types in your graveyard, which then gives you added bonus of things like FOMO, extra attacks, Wildfire getting extra bonus. The kind of pseudo combo is Wildfire, double strike it, push through a bunch of damage. You could also overprotect it to push even more damage. Tursa has a 4 of, I usually don't like, while it can filter through your deck. I've tried, like in Best of 1, I've played the Thrill Coaster, whatever it is. You can play Screaming Nemesis. A couple of the Big Worms is okay, I find, in the deck. I've also played at times, because you're really your only 1-drop that's a creature's Patchwork Beastie. And they can't really attack on 1 typically. I've played some Paw Patch Recruits against heavy removal decks, gives you multiple bodies, and there's also another useful one there. Because Tursus kind of lose some utility. You're usually somewhat hellbent in this, so if you draw with an empty hand, it's just a 3-mana 3/3. And then at times when you're exiling stuff at random, it can mess up your Delirium. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, what you think of the new set, how you've been enjoying Standard, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.